The Joe Rogan Experience.
If you look at that last card that we did, I think I had 3 of the biggest fights of any UFC card. I did the Cub Swanson fight.
What a fight that was.
It was.
Holy shit.
I get about a 20-minute break, and then I do Kevin Holland versus Jacare.
Woo!
And then I finished my night with Tony Ferguson and Oliveira.
That was crazy, too.
So it's like, man.
3 crazy fights.
3 crazy fights. So
yeah, God, that's a great card. That Kevin Holland KO was bananas.
I think I've done, and, you know, we don't have anything to do with the assignments. The Athletic Commission gives us our fights. I've done Kevin Holland's like the last 4 fights. And, you know, I tell folks I got the greatest seat in the world sitting there in the octagon with these, you know, men and women who go in there and do that stuff. But I fortunately have, with great mentors and guidance and opportunities from the UFC and some of the organizations, have gotten some of the biggest and best fights in the world. And
I'm very high on Kevin Holland. He's something special.
he's good.
He's got crazy power, and it's weird. Like, to knock out Jacare off your back with a punch, like, what?
And we sit there and, you know, you look at both fighters and see what's happening. And I go, it went down to the ground. And you have to know your fighters to know where their expertise is going to happen.
Well, he's a Travis Luter trained jiu-jitsu practitioner. And Travis Luter, one of the best American jiu-jitsu practitioners really ever. Travis Luter, you know, he comes from a different era, but back in his day, like the guys that I know that trained with him were like, holy fuck, is he good?
And it's great to see him, you know, there in the corner. You get to, you know, some time to chat with these guys and hear all the stories. But
he's out of Dallas, right?
yeah, when that fight happened,
Fort Worth?
Yeah, when that fight happened, he's on his back and he throws that first
Crazy.
punch. And I go, okay, this is going to be a transition. I look at Jacare, and, you know, if you go back and watch the fight, he's actually rocked when that first happened. We'll step a little bit closer. And by the time he throws the next 3 punches and I'm stepping in to try and stop it, you know, Jacare is out. And they'll concentrate on the fighter that wins. But, you know, one, you don't want a fighter to come back conscious and take you down to start to do something.
Right, that does happen.
And if there's a language barrier, you know, so I'm sitting there telling Jacare, the fight's over. You know, I say, stop. So there's no misunderstanding about what's going on. And I'm holding the Jacare and holding the fence because he's starting to, you know, come back coherent again.
Right.
And I want him to understand that he's been knocked out. And, you know, he's like, no, I'm good. I'm going, nah, man, you got knocked out. You've been out for, you know, a minute or 2.
Isn't that crazy?
Everybody eventually starts to come back.
They all think they're fine. Like, people think that fighters, like, they're trying to cheat or something like that. Like, you don't understand what it's like and you get knocked out. And especially fighters, when they come back, they think they're in the fight.
Exactly.
Like, they'll try to take a referee down. They're holding on to pants legs.
Yep.
They don't even think that it's a pants leg. And then eventually they go, why is this? These are black pants.
It's always,
like, what is this?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
They always say what happened.
Yeah.
Or they get the bright light of the, you know, the doctor shining the flashlight in our eyes of what happened.
Yeah.
And one thing we tried to transition doing, you know, I've had some fighters get really hurt really bad. We normally keep everybody out of the octagon. But one thing we're doing is we're allowing a coach to come in with the doctor, with the inspectors, with myself, and give them a familiar voice. You know, you get knocked out, you come back, and here's Mark telling you, no, the fight's over. You may not recognize. But if your coach is there in the corner saying, hey, such and such, you got knocked out, calm down, it's fine, this is Coach such and such, I'm here. We're finding that's calming the fighter down just a little bit. Obviously, medical protocols and safety, we got to do all that. But I like doing that. I like asking one of the coaches to come in, stand off to my side, and kind of give them a familiar voice.
When Oliveira had Tony Ferguson in that arm bar and he had his arm completely hyperextended and it looked like his arm was breaking, like, what was your thought there? Because some guys have stopped fights when a guy has a fully locked out arm bar, and it's very controversial. Like, some people think you should just let it keep going. Other people think, like, one of the best examples was Herb Dean with Tim Sylvia versus Frank Mir.
That went through my mind during that fight. And see, what a lot of people didn't understand at first is Herb is looking directly at his arm and sees it snap.
And heard it, too.
Heard it.
He heard the crack.
Yeah. Now, he caught a lot of flack for that.
He only did for a couple seconds. Once I got in the octagon and I explained it, and I explained it to the audience, because people were booing like crazy because the fight was stopped. Tim Sylvia's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Meanwhile, his arm was
He had that
trashed.
adrenaline going, too.
Well, his arm was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and then I explained it on TV, and then when I got into the octagon, and I said, I want you to look at something. Watch this. And then you hear everybody go, oh! When you see his forearm bend in half. And then everybody's like, oh, okay.
So at that level, with the choke, I'll tell guys in the rule meeting in the back, I'm not going to stop unless you go out. You can have someone in a fully compromised position. You know, who was it? The Chiesa fight.
Yes.
You know, he was fully
Kevin Lee.
compromised. But how good could it be? How long can he hold that? Can he turn his chin to the side and get out?
Yeah,
there?
you got to let him go out.
You got to let him go out. So
I mean,
we
but
tell guys.
Kevin Lee has a nasty rear naked choke, and he had Chiesa fully locked
But
in.
even in that position,
You got to let him go
so
out.
I tell guys and we learn as we progress watching fights. You know, we talk daily, weekly about stuff that we got to do. So I tell them in the back in the rules meeting, for a choke at this level, I'm not going to stop it unless the fighter goes out.
Good.
If it's any kind of other submission, I got to see a dislocation, separation, or it has to break. Or if you scream, and there's a difference between a scream and a grunt to get out of something. If you scream, it's a verbal submission, and we're going to stop it.
That's a weird one, right?
Now,
scream
Tony-
verbal submission thing is weird.
Tony, man, that was
You could saw his leg off with a rusty fucking axe.
beyond human.
he
Because
will not tap.
when Charles transitioned from across the chest to under the underarm, Tony grunted,
Yeah.
and he bared through it. And
Look at
yeah,
the
like
hyperextension. I don't know what happened
But see,
to his elbow. I
You
don't
can see
know
my foot there. Look how close I am. So I'm doing two
Yes.
things. One, I'm looking for a dislocation, separation, or break, but I'm also listening to see if it's going to be
crack.
a verbal, the
Yeah.
crack in the arm or verbal submission. He did not. He battled through that. And we got to be conscious of the time. So the 10-second clapper had already gone off. So I'm counting down in my head. And the goal is to right when that horn goes off, you'll see when we stop a submission from that, we go right to the pressure point, push back the opposite way, and take off the pivot point in his underarm to stop it. Because some guys are going to try to hold it for an extra second after the bell goes off. Right as that stops, I'm pushing on it and stopping it, also verbally telling the guy to stop because you don't want any extra damage after the bell.
You remember Husamar Palhares?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we saw, I think he did fight Jake Shields or somebody like that.
What's that loud noise all of a sudden? That thing? Oh, great.
I think when he fought Jake Shields, there was some extracurricular activity.
That was with Kimura, and that was in the PFL, right? Yeah, he held on to a Kimura, tapped Jake, but then held it long, and then afterwards there was a brawl inside the octagon. But
yeah, and I think I'd refereed the fight right before that. And, it's our responsibility as a referee to know your fighter. You got to, we do. What I do is I look at the entire card, and I'll go back and try to look at their fights. So whatever I get assigned, and I don't know what I get assigned until I get there, to know if anyone has any tendencies. Are they great on the stand-up? Are they great on the ground? Do they have a tendency to foul? Because we got some guys that like to fight with their fingers extended a lot, and I put that into my rules meeting of, watch fingers, this is what it's going to be, fingers straight to the sky or make a fist. Or if someone has a propensity to foul a lot, that may be something I'm going to watch out for.
now, when you see something like that, if you saw the arm break, you would have stopped it.
I would have stopped it. You have to.
But look how bad it looks.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how hyperextended that thing is.
Yeah. Now, you got some folks that are super double jointed, and they will tell you ahead of time, hey, I'm flexibility, I'm double jointed.
Do you remember Hoyler Gracie versus Sakuraba?
It was that with the...
He got him in a Kimura as well, and he got his arm like way wrapped up behind his back. But Hoyler has crazy joint flexibility, like it's really nuts. Like, and he was like, "I'm fine," and they stopped the fight, and he was furious because his arm was like Sakuraba's a catch wrestling guy, so he's got a lot of those like old school double wrist lock techniques that are really brutal in the joints, and he's got his arm like deep up high on his back, and he's twisting it. But Hoyler was like, I'm fine. I'm not tapping.
Yeah.
And he won't tap, which is crazy.
And it depends on the level. So, like, when we do Tough Enough, the amateur fights there,
Yeah, if he keeps going, you can see that's only the beginning of it. It got a lot worse. If you say Hoyler versus... No, that's the beginning of it.
yeah, like at the amateur level, somebody could be in a choke, and if it's compromised, we may stop the fight. Or if they get stuck in the armbar or something and don't demonstrate the capability to get out of it.
Right, in the amateurs, yeah. So this is Hoist,
That's
buddy.
Hoist.
That's Hoist. This is a different guy.
OG
Hoyler is much smaller. That's the problem with Sakuraba. Sakuraba is a big guy, and Hoyler is fairly small. Hoyler's like, he might be like 160, maybe. Catch new episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience for free, only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.